Seal of the Sand-Dweller, The Servant Ruler, Book 1. Written and performed by R. Rushing. Chapter 1. Yoseph. Squinting at the torchlight, Yoseph raised his head from the slab of wood. The taste of blood in his mouth. The beasts clopping hooves. The raucous laughter of the men. All of it. A reminder of the caravan that forced him into Egypt, and the traders that sold him as a slave. But he was no longer a mere slave. No, things were far worse than that. The guards drew him from the great prison a few days ago. They'd traveled through the night with only a sliver of moon to guide them through a mild sandstorm. A gust of wind flickered out a torch, and one of the men stumbled in the dark, growling a low curse. The beast came to a halt, and a gate groaned. Winter would not relent, and the East Desert winds were at their worst. Hot in the daytime, numbing at night. Yoseph lay on his side, gripping the slab of wood that dragged him, and gritting his teeth. His bones took in the shock of every dip and bump in the rutted road. Even if they hadn't strapped him down like a carcass, they trussed him like a dressed ox. His bound limbs were swollen, bloodied, and numb. The party came to a halt, and one of the guards addressed the palace gate attendant. When the beast moved forward again, the ground beneath Yoseph gave way to a smooth limestone surface. Elohim be praised. He unclenched a little, licking his cracked lips. His flesh burned from the cold gusts of wind, and his limbs throbbed in the bonds. If he could see the king's cupbearer, Lord Heknu would allay his fears. The remnant of an old prayer ran through his mind, though he could not grasp the words. Something prayed travelling through Edom, where Uncle Esau might have slaughtered them all, had he not remembered mercy and love for a brother. Yoseph prayed such mercy would find him today. Karek led the party, using his spear as a walking stick. He was a mid-ranking soldier titled greatest to 50 and freshened from the borders. He came to second at the garrison in the warden's absence, but it was the going forth of men, and he handed off his duties to set out with the escorting guards, catching the tail end of the winter festival. The men sang for most of the journey, using military ration chips to barter for warm jugs of beer, the lot of them merry, except for Yoseph, whom Karek deemed unfit for the luxuries of food and warmth. He'd been summoned to the palace by royal edict, and Karek assured him he was a man going to his death. Celery leaves from the festival littered the ground and blew across Yoseph's chest. He shivered against the chill, inhaling their lush scent as the guards crushed them underfoot. He gambled Karek lied about the edict, but even Karek would tell the truth if he thought it would hurt a man more. They'd reached the palace compound in the dead of night. Only the wind howling through the trees and the slab of wood dragging over stone broke the silence. They passed through a lit archway, where dim torchlight flickered on the king's royal name cartoushed in the ceiling. Sekamat Kakepra Senuseret. Yoseph stared at the symbols fading from sight as the beast dragged him on. Darkness obscured the great structures of the king's house, all but the walls of the king's treasury, lit with torches and shining like gold in the firelight. Another sharp wind stung his limbs, pelting him with sand and pebbles. The punishing blasts gutted out the great torches around the treasury walls, but the scene was lost to him when they pulled into a courtyard. The harsh winds ceased. Karek cut him loose from the slab and yanked him to his feet. He fell over like a beam, and Karek dragged him to a wall by the bonds at his wrists. He sucked in a breath for dignity's sake, and glanced up at the crowd he'd drawn. He yelped. The sharp poke in his neck drew blood. Not for the first time Karek had used his spear to amuse himself. He drew laughter from the gold-clad youths on the balcony. They flocked around an ornately dressed prince holding a wine jug and followed him out of Yoseph's line of sight. Karek nudged the spear tip deeper. Yoseph hissed, pressing his head against the wall. Blood trickled down his neck. The journey to the king's house was grueling, but Karek's attentions had worn him thin enough to think death might bring relief. Remember the cupbearer, he promised. His heart raced. Karek would see him executed before dawn, and Lord Heknu would never know he'd arrived. A tall Cushite trotting
Sample complete. Ready to continue?